Hey everybody, welcome back to another chapter of the Count of Monte Cristo, chapter 32, Unlimited Credit. The next day, toward 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a carriage drawn by two magnificent English horses drew up before Monte Cristo's door. In it sat a man dressed in a blue coat with silk buttons of the same color, a white waistcoat over which passed a heavy gold chain, and brown trousers. His hair was jet black and descended so far over his forehead that it hardly looked natural, for it formed too great a contrast with the deep furrows left uncovered. In short, he was a man of some 50 to 55 years of age who tried to appear 40. He put his head through the door of the carriage, on which a coronet was painted, and sent the groom to ask whether the Count of Monte Cristo was at home. The groom tapped at the porter's window and asked, "Does the Count of Monte Cristo live here?" "His Excellency does live here, but he is engaged," replied the porter. "In that case, here's the card of my master, Baron Danglars. Hand it to the Count of Monte Cristo and tell him that my master stopped on his way to the chamber in order to have the honor of seeing the Count." "I never speak to His Excellency," replied the reporter. "The valet will deliver the message." The groom returned to the carriage and, somewhat crestfallen at the rebuke he had just received, gave his master the porter's answer. "Oh, the man whom they call Excellency is a prince, then, to whom only the valet has the right to speak. Never mind, since he has credit on my bank, I shall see him when he wants money." Then, throwing himself back into the carriage, he called out to his coachman in a voice that could be heard at the other side of the street, "To the Chamber of Deputies." The Count had been informed of this visit, and had had time to examine the Baron from behind the window blind. "He's decidedly an ugly brute," he said with a gesture of disgust. At the very first sight of the man, anyone could recognize him, the snake by his flat forehead, the vulture by his protruding cranium, and the buzzard by his sharp beak. "Ali," he cried, striking once on the copper gong. Ali appeared. "Call Petruchio," said he. Petruchio instantly made his appearance. "Your Excellency sent for me," said the steward. "Yes," said the Count. "Did you see the horses that just now drew up before my door?" "Certainly, Excellency, and very beautiful they were too." "How comes it," said Monte Cristo, frowning, "that when I instructed you to obtain for me the best horses to be had in Paris, there are in the town two other horses outside my stables as good as mine?" "The horses you mentioned were not for sale, Count," said Petruchio. Count Monte Cristo shrugged his shoulders. "Do you not know, steward, that everything is for sale to him who cares to pay the price? Monsieur Danglars paid 16,000 francs for them, Count. Well, then offer him 32,000. He is a banker, and a banker never loses the opportunity of doubling his capital." "Do you mean that seriously?" said Petruchio. Monte Cristo looked at the steward as one astonished that he should dare to ask such a question. "I have a call to make this evening," said he. "I wish to have these horses harnessed to my carriage." Petruchio retired, bowing. He stopped near the door and said, "At what time does your Excellency propose paying this call?" "At 5 o'clock, replied the Count. "May I point out, your Excellency, that it is now 2 o'clock, the steward ventured to remark. "I know," was Monte Cristo's sole reply. At 5 o'clock, the Count sounded his gong 3 times. 1 stroke summoned Ali, 2 Baptistin, 3 strokes Petruchio. The steward entered. "My horses," said the Count. "They've been put in, Excellency," was Petruchio's reply. The Count went down and saw the much-coveted horses of Danglars harnessed to his own carriage. "They are really beautiful," he said. "You did well to buy them, though you were late in doing so." "Excellency, I had considerable difficulty in getting them," said Petruchio. "They have cost a great deal of money." "Are the horses less beautiful for that?" asked the Count, shrugging his shoulders. "If your Excellency is satisfied, all is well," said Petruchio. "Where is your Excellency going?" "To Baron Danglars, Rue de la Chaussée d'Antin." Arrived at the Baron's residence, the Count was ushered into that nobleman's presence. "Have I the honor of addressing Monsieur de Monte Cristo?" "And I of addressing Baron Danglars, Chevalier of Legion of Honor and member of the Chamber of Deputies," said the Count. Monte Cristo replied all the titles he had read on the Baron's card. Danglars felt the thrust and bit his lips. "I have received a letter of advice from Messrs. Thompson and French," he said. "I am delighted to hear it, Baron." "I am delighted. It will not be necessary to introduce myself, which is always embarrassing. You say you have received a letter of advice." Yes, but I must confess I do not quite understand its meaning, said Danglars. This letter, I have it with me, I think. He searched in his pocket. Yes, here it is. This letter opened credit on my bank to the Count of Monte Cristo for an unlimited sum. Well, Baron, what is there incomprehensible in that? Nothing, monsieur, but the word unlimited. Is that a word unknown in France? No, monsieur, it is quite all right in regard to syntax, but not quite so from a banker's point of view. Is the banking firm of Thomson and French not sound, do you think, Baron? Said the Count of Monte Cristo as naively as possible. That would be a nice thing, to be sure. I have some property deposited with them. Oh, they're perfectly sound, replied Danglars with an almost mocking smile. But the meaning of the word unlimited in connection with finances is so vague. And what is vague is doubtful, and in doubt, says the wise man, there is danger. In other words, replied Monte Cristo, if Thomson and French are inclined to commit a folly, Danglars Bank is not going to follow suit. No doubt Masters Thomson and French do not need to consider figures in their operations, but Monsieur Danglars has a limit to his. As he said just now, he is a wise man. No one has ever questioned my capital, monsieur, replied the banker proudly. Then obviously I am the first one to do so. How so? The explanations you demand of me, monsieur, which certainly appeared to imply hesitation. Why then, monsieur, I will try to make myself clear by asking you to name the amount for which you expect to draw on me, continued Danglars after a moment's silence. But I haven't asked for unlimited credit because I am uncertain of the amount I shall require, replied Monte Cristo, determined not to lose an inch of ground. The banker thought the moment had come for him to take the upper hand. He flung himself back in the armchair, and with a slow, arrogant smile on his lips, "Do not fear to ask, monsieur. You will be convinced that the resources of the firm of Danglars, limited though they may be, are sufficient to meet the highest demands, even though you asked for 1,000,000. What did you say? I said 1,000,000, repeated Danglars with the audacity of stupidity. What should I do with 1,000,000? Said the Count. Good heavens, I should not have opened an account for such a trifling sum. Why, I always carry 1,000,000 in my pocketbook or my suitcase. And he took from his small card case 2 treasury bills of 500,000 francs each. A man of Danglars' type requires to be overwhelmed, not merely pinpricked. And this blow had its effect. The banker was simply stunned. He stared at Monte Cristo in a stupefied manner, his eyes staring out of his head. Come now, own that you mistrust Messrs. Thomson and French. I expected this, and though I am not very businesslike, I came forearmed. Here are 2 other letters of credit similar to the one addressed to you. One is from Arstin and Esclis of Vienna on Baron Rothschild. The letter is from Baring Brothers of London on Monsieur Lafitte. You have only to say the word, and I will relieve you of all anxiety by presenting my letter of credit to one or the other of these 2 firms. That was enough. Danglars was vanquished. Trembling visibly, he took the letters from London and Germany that the Count held out to him, opened them, verified the authenticity of the signatures with a care that would have been insulting to Monte Cristo had they not served to mislead the banker. Here are 3 signatures which are worth many millions, said Danglars, rising as though to pay homage to the power of gold personified in the man before him. 3 unlimited credits on our banking firms. Excuse me, Count, though I am no longer mistrustful, I cannot help being astonished. But nothing can astonish a banking establishment like yours, said Monte Cristo with a great show of politeness. You can send me some money, then, I suppose? Speak, Count, I am at your service. Well, since we understand each other and you no longer mistrust me, I am not presuming too much in saying this, am I? Let's fix on a general sum for the first year. 6 millions, for example. Very well. Let it be 6 millions, replied Danglars hoarsely. If I require more, said Monte Cristo carelessly, we can add to it, but I do not expect to stay in Paris more than a year, and I don't suppose I shall exceed that sum in a year. Anyway, we shall see. To begin with, will you please send me tomorrow 500,000 francs, half in gold and half in notes? I shall be at home until noon, but I should have to go out. I will leave the receipt with my steward. You shall have the money at 10 o'clock in the morning, Count. The Count rose. I must confess to you, Count, said Danglars, I thought I was well informed on all the large fortunes of Europe, and yet I must own, though yours appears to be very considerable, I had no knowledge of it. Is it of recent date? No, monsieur, on the contrary, it is a very long-standing, replied Monte Cristo. It is a kind of family treasure which was forbidden to touch. The interest has gone accumulating, and it has troubled the capital. The period fixed by the testator expired only a few years ago, so your ignorance of the matter was quite natural. You will know more about it, though, in a short time. The Count accompanied his words with one of those pale smiles that struck such terror into the heart of Franz d'Epinay. If you would allow me, Count, I should like to introduce you to Baroness Danglars. Excuse my haste, but a client like you almost forms part of the family. Monte Cristo bowed as a sign that he accepted the preferred honor. The financier rang the bell, and a footman in brilliant livery appeared. Is the Baroness home? Asked Danglars. Yes, Monsieur le Baron, replied the footman. Is she alone? No, Monsieur le Baron. Monsieur Debray is with her. Danglars nodded his head. Then turning to the Count, he said, Monsieur Debray is an old friend of ours and a private secretary to the Minister of the Interior. As for my wife, she belongs to an ancient family and lowered herself in marrying me. She was Mademoiselle de Sévillé when I married her. She was a widow after the death of her first husband, Colonel the Marquis de Naron. I have not the honor of knowing Madame Danglars, but I have already met Monsieur Lucien Debray. Really? Where? At the house of Monsieur de Moncouf. Oh, you know the little Viscount, then. We were together at Rome during the Carnival. It is true, said Danglars. Have I not heard something about a strange adventure with bandits in the ruins? He had a most miraculous escape. I believe he told my daughter and wife something about it when he returned from Italy. The Baroness awaits your pleasure, messieurs, said the footman, who had been to inquire of his mistress whether she would receive visitors. I will go in front to show you the way, said Danglars, bowing. And I will follow you. And so Monte Cristo and Danglars have met. See you next time.